Hello and welcome to the Success Stories series. This is a series that is all about you, where you get to share your story with the other women here and inspire them to take those steps towards their best health and well-being. So I'm Peta and I'm the CEO of Strong Healthy Women. And today I want to share a little snippet of my story. So, the women in my family are all categorized as being obese, and that would be the pathway that I would be heading down. So, here's what I know is that we can change our lives. So, 10% of it is our family history, and 90% is totally within our control. So I didn't grow up around exercise and I didn't grow up around healthy eating, but I did grow up in the 60s where we had very big backyards, and which meant we had fruit trees and we had veggie patches and we had swings and slippery dips and all sorts of things to play on in the backyard, and we would spend a lot of time running around that backyard, and we had bikes and all those types of things that we had as children. So movement was just a natural part of what we did every day, as well as eating fresh and seasonal food was just part of what we did as well too, because we would eat it out of the veggie patch that we had or the fruit trees that we had. And so the biggest highlight for us would have been the Friday evenings where we would have fish and chips from the local fish and chip shop. But of course, we didn't drive there. We would all walk there as a family. And so even though exercise was not structured and even though it was not something that I saw, I was quite aware of moving as a child. So there were various things that have happened in my life and a lot of things that occurred to make me feel like I wasn't loved or I wasn't good enough. And for now, I'm not going to go into all of those details. I am writing a book about all of that. But I want to fast forward it to that moment where I really did commit to changing my life. So I had been slowly making changes over the years. Not that I was really aware of it, it was just something that was subconsciously happening. But what occurred in my 40s was I wasn't feeling right. I just felt like I didn't have energy. And what would happen is I would have to have these nana naps. I would want to lay down in the middle of the afternoon. And that wasn't like me at all. I've always been someone who would go, go, go all of the time. And so what happened was, after a while, I'm not someone who goes to the doctors very often, but I did go to the doctors and they couldn't really find anything. And they said, you probably just need to, eat more meat and all those types of things. And anyway, long story short, I was persistent with this, like I wasn't feeling right. And what actually happened was that eventually my doctor just kept on doing different tests. And what we ended up finding was the fact that I had some bad cervical cells in my body. And so if it had been left just that little fraction longer, it would have been cervical cancer. So, me listening to my body really was one of the biggest lessons that I have ever learned. And it is one lesson that I want you to really, really start to tune into. It is the one that I want to pass on to you. So when your body isn't feeling right, it does talk to you. It does tell you what's going on. We only have to open up our ears and our feelings and know that there is something there. And just recently, one of our gorgeous women in the Strong Healthy Women community had exactly that. She wasn't feeling right and her doctor was sending her for all these tests and telling her it was different things. And, she would send me a bit of an update in her emails. And I'd say, oh, that doesn't seem right, that would cause that. And eventually they found out what the problem was. And she has since had surgery and is going through her treatments. And she is just an absolute powerhouse. So what happened as a direct result is that I did go into hospital. I had an operation, and I ended up having to have a second one. And I went into early menopause, and my body started reacting as menopause does. And so it was at that point that the exercise that I was doing, which was walking, just didn't end up being enough. And so that walk, that half an hour, went to an hour, went to 2 hours, and who's got time for that, really? And so with that, I ended up really becoming very interested in what was changing about my body and what I could do to help support it. And I really did have this realization that if I did not change something now, that I was going to end up in the obese category, like my mum, like my grandma, like my great grandmother. And I certainly didn't want that for myself. And one of the things as a child that I saw, we spent a lot of time with my nana, and I won't go into the reasons that we did that, but we did. And she had diabetes, and what happened was this tiny little scratch on her toe ended up meaning that she had to have her toe removed. And then from there, she ended up having her leg removed. And we used to affectionately call her little leg Stumpy, and she used to laugh like crazy about that. And I remember her dragging herself across from the kitchen into the lounge room and out to the front of her house, where she would use the railings to be able to lever herself up, even though she was someone who was very overweight. She had such amazing upper body strength, but such inner strength as well too. And what I saw from that and what I witnessed from that was the decline in her, and how eventually a stroke took her from this earth. And I remember that, and I felt like I had a hole in my heart because she was such a massive part of my life, and it felt for me like I was losing my mother, because I did spend such a lot of time with my grandparents. And that realization that even though with diabetes we don't see what's going on the outside, although I got to witness the effects of it on the outside of the body, it really engraved something in my mind that it is what is happening inside our body that is truly important. And, it's lovely to be, to feel and look great in ourselves. And I know that we all aspire to do that. But it's really the inside of our body that is such an important thing. So we could be a terribly, terribly thin person, but we may very much have 48% body fat in that very thin frame. And I've seen that, and I've seen that on countless amounts of times. So you cannot judge the book by its cover. What we need to do is be very conscious of what is happening internally inside our body and listen to it. And as I said, that is the lesson. That is the biggest thing, is to listen to our body. So this realization happened for me was that I needed to make changes. And I did start to make changes, so much so that I completely changed my life. I completely changed my career as a result of that. And I'm not saying that I am going to be able to hold off every single thing that has happened and all of the preventable health diseases that my mum has and my grandmother had and my great-grandmother had. But I am saying that I'm giving it a very, very big pushback. So I am doing everything that I possibly can to live my healthiest, my fittest life. Because after all, I want to be able to do the things that are important in my life. I want to be able to continue skiing well into my 90s. I want to be able to keep hiking mountains. I want to be able to dance the nut bush, I might say, at my grandchildren's weddings. I'm hoping that they recall that nut bush that I have taught them from a young age here in my kitchen on many occasions. And if you follow me on Facebook, you probably will have seen me doing that with them. And and so there are so many things that I want to be able to do later in my life. And this is my why. I know that if I don't keep working on my health and my well-being and checking in with how I feel and what's going on inside my body, that it might catch up with me. And so I want to do everything that I possibly can to push it back. And so it doesn't really matter, whether you're low fat, whether you're vegan, whether you're paleo, whether you're keto, whether you're Mediterranean diet, whether you're a CrossFitter, whether go to the gym, whether you work out at home, or whether you walk. It doesn't matter what it is. It is about understanding what your body needs and how you can live the life that you want to lead by actually being very, very aware of the critical components of what fitness and well-being really, really mean. And so over the series, what I want to do is bring to you your gorgeous story. And you might be thinking, I'm just starting out. And that's quite okay, because guess what? We're all starting out. And that one lesson that you share here in this group might be that one lesson that that person who is listening, that one woman goes, that's what I can do. I can certainly do that one thing. So for today, your biggest takeaway from me to you is to really listen. Just spend some time sitting in silence and see how your body is feeling. Just feel whether it's upright in itself. Just feel whether there's some niggles going on, whether there's some grumbling in your tummy. Just take a moment to listen to your body. So that's it for me. That's a little bit of my story. And please, please email me, stronghealthywomen@iinet.net.au. Just a little bit of your story, and you can come on here and share with us just how you got started and that little bit of inspiration for somebody here in the group. So take care, everybody. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all soon. See you soon.